नमस्कार। पोइट्री एंड लिटरेरी ग्रुप के सभी दर्शकों का मैं अनुपम रमेश किंगर, वैश्विक उपाध्यक्ष, एक बार पुनः अपने इस साप्ताहिक कार्यक्रम एक मुलाकात में हार्दिक अभिनंदन और स्वागत करती हूँ। और जैसे जैसे गर्मियों की छुट्टियां नजदीक आती जा रही हैं, मैं ये जानती हूँ कि आप सब अपने अपने घरों को या फिर कहीं और पर्यटन को घूमने जाने की तैयारी में होंगे। लेकिन जबकि आप और हम बड़े लोग जरूरत का सामान इकट्ठा कर रहे होंगे, हमारे बच्चे या तो अपनी किताबें जो कि उन्हें पढ़ना पसंद है, या फिर ऐसा कोई बोर्ड गेम जो कि उन्हें खेलना पसंद है, साथ ले जाने की जिद कर रहे होंगे। और शायद यही बचपन की एक सबसे खूबसूरत याद है, गर्मियों की छुट्टियों में शाम को पेड़ों की हवा के नीचे बैठना और कभी शतरंज तो कभी सांप सीढ़ी, कभी लूडो तो कभी चंदा मामा और नंदन के साथ अपना दिन गुजारना। आज ये सब मुझे क्यों याद आ रहा है? क्योंकि इस सब में भाषा का कोई बंधन नहीं होता था, और आज मेरे जो अतिथि हैं उनके साथ भी मेरा भाषा का कोई बंधन, कोई बाध्यता नहीं। वो अंग्रेजी में शतरंज की चाल चलते हैं, वो अंग्रेजी में अपना घोड़ा दौड़ाते हैं, और मैं हिंदी में बहुत ही सफाई से अपनी रानी को बचा जाती हूँ, लेकिन हम दोनों शतरंज का खूब मजा लेते हैं। तो आइए आज मैं आपको मिलवाती हूँ पीएलजी के एक स्तंभ बिपिन कुरियाकोस जी से। आज का हमारा ये साक्षात्कार का कार्यक्रम प्रायः अंग्रेजी में रहेगा, क्योंकि वे अंग्रेजी में लिखते हैं। तो सीधे सीधे चलते हैं बिपिन जी के पास। Bipin, who is an alumni of the INSEAD Business School, France, a TEDx speaker, an author, and a distinguished Toastmaster. He's done his MBA in 1998. He has worked with many multinational companies. Currently, he is working in the Middle East with a multinational company, and his business involved all those things which fascinate me, like a magician's work, but which I don't understand anything about, i.e., the digital transformation business, the enterprise software applications, robotics, drones, and all such things, which for me, stories are made of. But apart from that, Bipinji's love for writing has been a constant throughout his life. And he brings a certain sensibility, a certain sensitivity to his stories. I have been fortunate enough to share the forum with him on a couple of occasions when he brought in a story and I brought in a story. And we both enjoyed the nuances of each other's languages while relating to the emotions of the stories. I still remember, Bipinji, your story about the narrow lane, which just caught my breath, and then it took me a while to get over the visuals of that beautiful story. Bipinji also has a blog which is called Bipin Sites on Facebook, and I would request all my viewers today to please go and have a look at it. It is wonderful. Apart from that, Bipinji has also written a book, The Unseen Wings. It is an Amazon bestseller. It is a collection of 77 poems, and I would request you to also go and have a look at it and try and buy it, because you may possess the book, but you will love the words. So here I am with one of the most prolific writers of our times, Bipinji, on the stage of Poetry and Literary Group. Bipinji, we welcome you and we are honored to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Anupam ji. Thank you so much for such a fabulous, flattering introduction. I am really indebted to the way you have given the introduction. And I was sure, like I was telling you, that you will be able to bring out facets of myself which I am unaware of, which you so gracefully and so elegantly did. Thank you so much. And I'm also thankful to PLG, Mr. Tufail, for this wonderful platform and the opportunity to have me on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bipinji. You have been an inspiration and you have been an encouragement. I remember vividly your conversations on the programs with the likes of Likhita, whom you have been like a mentor for her Toastmasters, and how you just steer the students of today. Congratulations for that. I think you're doing a fabulous job. But when somebody is so successful, when somebody does something so perfectly, so elegantly, so eloquently, one starts wondering where all this began. Because the journey to success is neither simple nor easy. So, where did this love of the word begin? And how did you start penning down your thoughts? Any first memories?
Uh, yes, Anupam ji. I used to write even during my school days, and thanks to the teachers there in my school and to a set of friends with whom there used to be always some or the other competition, whether it is essay writing competition or elocution competition, not just within the school but with schools outside in the same city. So the pursuit of learning language, enhancing the language, working on improving the expressions. So it started then. And it's always been a continuous attempt to be able to express and express better. So as things progressed over time, there has been I feel a sense of change also within me from being that flamboyant writer who was so very keen on having big words, tough words, the flashy words that were being used at one point of time, to now where I prefer simplicity, where I would like more people to read without having to refer the dictionary. This has been the change. And when it comes to public speaking, again, I keep saying that a great public speaker, if you have to be a good public speaker, there has to be a good writer within you. It's only when you can write well can you speak well, because writing crystallizes thoughts and
Absolutely.
helps you structure your content, your expression in the most effective manner. So the attempt to speak well, write well, learn more, and be able to bring them all together has been an ongoing effort. It has been an ongoing endeavor. And I wouldn't say that I have made it or anything of that sort, because it's so far so much has to be done, so much more has to be done, because even with one sentence there are multiple ways of expressing it. And when it comes to writing, whether it's poetry or whether it's writing short stories, the possibilities are immense. The combinations are immense. So that is how it has evolved. So to answer your question, it started from school and then continued into college, and it continued eventually. I used to write for an ad agency, basically writing copy, which is the text that you see in advertisements, the headline,
Yes.
body copy, and the
Yes.
punchline, and so on. So that was one point of time in my college when I tried to make money out of words, because that's the time when you need more pocket money and you're always tight on the pocket.
Yes, you're always short on cash. Yes.
Yeah. So there were instances when I used to do freelance writing for ad agencies, would do freelance journalism for a couple of local dailies in the city where I was, which was Hyderabad. And that also enabled me to get some money in the process. Made some very interesting advertisements. And the thing that I realized again over there was, how do you effectively communicate the most in the least possible amount of words and possibly time as well. And it continued to
Yes.
this day. And it's encouragement from friends, well wishers like yourselves, and the platforms like that of PLG, which keep the passion burning. So, like I keep saying, while I am in the business of technology, which basically keeps the kitchen fire burning, the fire of the soul is kept burning by way of words and whatever I get to write every now and then.
Absolutely, absolutely. I can so relate to that. Any ads that you could remember you had written in those first few days, or
Oh yes.
any jingles that you created?
Oh, this is very funny actually. There was this school which had started operations in Hyderabad. Now one of the very renowned school, but those days it was in its very nascent stages. So it was a huge campus, uh, beautiful infrastructure, but very far away from the city. So this was constructed for the benefit of the returning NRIs to Hyderabad and the IT crowd, who was seen the best of outside India kind of education system.
That's right.
So
Yes.
this was built for them, uh, and we started writing for them, designing ads for them. I think in the second year of their operations, where they had about just about 80 students then, and for the kind of facility infrastructure that they had, 80 was abysmally low. So during the course of the discussions with them, there was this line that came up which said, "By far the best." So it sort of
Yes.
resonated with everybody because it was so far away from the city. So in that sense, it was by far. And
But
then
it was the best. Yes.
again, it was the best in terms of the infrastructure and so on. So there was the sort of interesting play of words also which came up, and that sort of caught on. And then again, there were quite a few series of advertisements which were done for outlets like ice cream parlors and so on, with one single word which would explain about the essence of the outlet and so on and so on. So quite a few ads which went out, which really were close to heart and was fun writing.
Beautiful. Wonderful. You say that, and you reminded me of a cake shop here in Bahrain, which was started by a dear friend of mine. And, um, we sometimes try to unnecessarily complicate matters. So we were all sitting together and trying to hack our brains and come up with catchy, attractive names and Nadia's super cool cakes and whatnot. And finally, you won't believe it, the name that stuck to her was Let Them Eat Cake. And that's the name. And the cake shop is doing so well. She just bakes and sells cakes. That's it. You see, that's all she does. And so she says, let them eat cake. And everybody buys her cakes. She's a rage in Bahrain. So when you were talking about by far, I realized, yes, it can be just as simple as that. And that simplicity always shines through your written word also. Like I was reading the poem the other day, if we were to meet someplace, mine would be a stranger's face. And I realized how very strong the message is towards the end. You start with such a simple, if we were to meet someplace, mine would be a stranger's face. And then you end it with the hello and hi, which was amazing. So I would request you to please share this poem with us if you can, and then we'll move on with our discussions.
Sure. So this poem is the first poem in my book titled The Unseen Wings. Uh, so it just was coincidence that it turned out to be the first poem, because when I wrote the set of poems and then I was trying to sequence it for the book, the last poem was Goodbye. And then I said, if the last poem is goodbye,
Then the
why not have
first,
the first poem to be a hello? So that this poem was written with that thought, and turned out to be the first poem in the book. Uh, it goes like this. Hello. The possibilities are limitless. The stories are endless. All it takes is just one word, hello. If we were to meet someplace, mine would be a stranger's face. If you were to look into my eyes, you would pass by
Sorry.
without surprise. If you were to look into my eyes, you would pass by without surprise. I would probably do the same. Why even bother asking your name? But if we exchanged one more glance, we might just end up with some new plans. What if you just held me near? Maybe I would remind you of someone dear. I wear the same jacket and smell familiar to a memory that now seems unclear. If we just stopped to think it over, whether it was a friend or a forgotten lover, they would all have been strangers, you know, had it not started with a hi or a hello.
Yes. And this was so potent for me, the last line. They would all have been strangers. And it actually took me down memory lane, trying to consider all those who are so close to me, not by blood, but otherwise. And how it, yes, did start with a hi, a hello, meeting randomly, and how close the relationships have built. So this really caught me by surprise, the way your words have churned out, and it was beautiful.
Thank you.
So why Unseen Wings, Bipinji? Why this thing? And could you show our viewers the book? That would be great. If you could show us the cover of the book.
Yeah, so the book looks like this.
It's beautiful.
This is the cover of the book, and it's got about 170 pages in it. In addition to the poems that are there in the book, it's also got illustrations, which I'm happy and proud to say that it was done by my daughter. So,
congratulations to her also.
Thank you so much. So these poems were actually brought to life further with the illustrations, which were, I would say, so relevant and so much resonating with the poems itself. Very simple, subtle illustrations that are either in the form of watermarks or some places it's standing out. So that's how the book is formatted. Why Unseen Wings? That's the question that you asked. Well, I always believe that there is a very high level of potential that we all possess, and we do not know how much it is. We've not realized or the depth of what we hold in us. And it's only adversities that bring out the best in us. And it is these thoughts that strengthen us, these thoughts that uplift us, which are contained in the book. Although there is loss, there is the hope, there is fear, but there is also strength in adversity that is brought out in the book. So this collection, which is there, touching about multiple emotions in the book, can possibly be aptly called the unseen wings, representing the unseen nature of the potential that we hold, and possibly the wings that are within us trying to flutter and give us the flight that we also deserve.
Yes.
So that's how the name came up.
Many a times we just don't flutter them enough. We could have, and we would have flied, but we don't flutter them enough to start the flight. Very beautifully put, Bipinji, and thank you so much for that thought, that each and every one of us, it is important to flutter those wings. Trust that you have them, flutter them with your might, and the next you know, you all are in flight. Thank you so much for that thought, Bipinji. And on that note, so when you started writing and you started getting appreciated, why did it not take a professional turn? How did it stop at a hobby level?
That's a very good question.
Especially, if I may add one more thing, especially because you and I come from India, and in India, it's easier to sell a book in English than in Hindi. And you fortunately were writing in English. We Hindi writers struggle with that mental dilemma because people prefer to read English more. They find it simpler. So why not go the professional way?
Um, it is actually a turn of events that continued and which is continuing even now. That from a professional point of view, the industries that I am working with, technology and so to say the cutting edge part of it, is something that again is exciting. I am in love with technology as well. So as things evolved over time, I had the privilege of being associated with the telecom industry, which was booming and growing, and there was never a dull moment. So I'm the kind of person who looks from one gratification to the other, one adventure to the other. So that industry itself was evolving so much from where it used to be in the early 2000s to where it is now. And the transitions, the changes that were happening in my career also kept me on that roller coaster ride. So that excitement was so good that I did not feel like jumping off that and getting into another area which is equally exciting. So I felt that it is quite possible to have both of them going together without letting one go at the exclusion of the other. So that has been the effort. I'm the kind of person I would like to have multiple balls juggling at the same time.
Yes.
And that is where, while technology keeps changing, there is always the new learnings that are happening with whatever is happening. There's so much that is there, and you're always trying to catch up with technology as such. That attempt is going on one side. At the same time, trying to also catch up with what's happening in the writing world, in the publishing world, and keeping in sync with the written word is also equally challenging. So that's the balance which I'm trying to bring out. Well, will I disembark from that journey of technology and business to move into full time writing? Who knows? Maybe I will some point of time. But as of now, I am enjoying the ride on both the boats, and it's going fine.
Yes.
There's a balance which is there. So no complaints, and the adventure is worth it.
Yes, absolutely. Great. Neither this nor that. Both are good, none is bad. Brings me to your next poem, which was titled Good or Bad. And again, what caught my attention was the simplicity of words and the profound nature of the message behind it that you bring out. And it would be actually an honor to hear it from you. And if we could first hear and then share our thoughts about it with the audiences.
Sure, Anupamji, thank you. So this poem, which is titled Good or Bad, goes like this. I wish to be remembered neither for the good I did nor for the bad I hid, not even for the promises I fulfilled. When I look at the good and the bad, I know these definitions of life are sad. For if you look closely, you will surely see the truth of how the good and the bad could be. There is that persistent shade of gray, even in the darkest black, I would say. Look at the
Beautiful.
white. Look at the white, and you will behold shades of cream that you were never told. What meets the eye is not what it is. Every loud laughter hides immense grief. The truth is held in disbelief, even as we seek alternate relief. As life swings between sun and shade, some things remain and others fade. Some clouds leave behind ceaseless rain, yet some others bring out a new sunshine. If you do remember the best of me, try and don't hate the rest of me. Before you remember me as good or bad, remove the cream in the white and the gray in the black.
Beautiful. Fabulous. Fabulous. Reminds me of a Hindi poem I had read somewhere, which talked about इंसान हूँ माटी का बना हूँ मैं, इंसान हूँ माटी का बना हूँ मैं, सोने चांदी का होता तो सांस कहाँ ले पाता मैं, गहना भी बनाओ तो थोड़ी मिलावट चलती है, इसीलिए तो कहता हूँ कि पूरा सच्चा नहीं, कभी कभी थोड़ा झूठ भी कह जाता हूँ मैं. Reminds me of that beautiful poem. Thank you so much, Bipin ji. And like I said, once again, very simple words and very logically written poems, but in the end, they leave you with a very, very profound message. Like this one asks me or challenges me rather to accept someone wholeheartedly with the goods and the bads, and to accept that it is okay to not be perfect 10. It's a beautiful poem. And even while I was reading it, I was touched by the, the play of words and how it brings you to such a deep realization. We sometimes, right now, many a times I read in messages on Instagram and other social media, don't be too harsh upon yourself. Because you and I, we grew up as a generation that was asked to be perfectionists. We were told to do everything perfectly, be the perfect 10. And suddenly now people are realizing how hard it is to have that level of expectations from yourself. And I think the same applies to the others also. So if I can be a little more lenient with myself, accept myself, maybe I will accept the others also with a little more softness and not be as harsh. So actually your poem took me through a whole uh, jigsaw of emotions before I could actually get out of it. And I think that is the greatness of your words. You are able to weave them so beautifully, Bipinji.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
How do you do that? How do you do that?
Uh, how do I do that? I'm not able to pin to some method or something that actually works beneath. Uh, but the underlying attempt always is to have some kind of a twist in the end, follow a pattern, and then come up with something possibly a little profound in the end. Uh,
Yes.
that is the attempt. While I mean, I have tried writing descriptive poetry of, describing mountains and rivers and trees, and it's beautiful how words can be used to describe such things. Uh, Even if I were to write something descriptive, I would say, okay, so what? While it's beautiful and I feel nice about reading it, is there something that touches me at the end of it? Is a question that I keep asking myself. And
Yes.
that is where the attempt comes to give something that may possibly need an additional moment of thought and reflection.
Yes, absolutely.
And the other factor is that while there is poetry that we all learned in school and college, and it's been a part of our life. Um, in fact, we started speaking in poems. Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star was perhaps the first poem, or the equivalent of
Yes.
that in Hindi was the first poem that we started speaking after our mummy, daddy, amma, abba. We all started saying some or the other poem.
Yes.
But why do we start going away from that? Why do we start drifting away from that while schools and education system tries to teach poetry? To my mind, it is because there's a very strong effort being done to teach poetry very top level. Many people find it difficult. So that is where the attempt of poets or writers as such should be to make it more simpler, more relatable, and
Yes,
in some way, leave the audience, the readers, with something to think about, something that can possibly make them a notch better before they read that those few words. So that's the attempt, and that's what drives me to write in the way that I do.
absolutely. I so totally agree with you. And this has been my experience on two occasions in the very near past. Just a few days ago, I happened to have the good fortune to attend a poetry meet, a Mushaira as it is called. And I realized that the highest applause was given to the poets who used simpler language, but deeper meanings. And people who came up with very flowery but difficult language were not as well received because probably the audiences were left wondering, what is he trying to convey through these difficult big words? And the same happened yesterday. I was again fortunate enough to be with a group of people who have started Toastmasters in Hindi in Bahrain. And again, the same thing came up. They said the reason people do not like to speak in Hindi is because the official Hindi uses much harder and technically tricky words. And hence, people tend to shift to English. And again, the same thing you said, that the reason all these hard efforts are not working is because we are not making it simpler and relatable. It is so nice to hear poetry that you can understand or relate to or connect with right at the offset, because then you've held the poet's hand and you've passed through the entire journey. Whereas if I'm stuck at a word, then I'm stuck there on that thought and the poet has moved on. So
Absolutely.
thank you so much. That was a beautiful, beautiful explanation. And I will always keep in mind to not use these big words, as satisfying as it might be. Moving on to your next poem, which was equally attractive and fascinating, and you called it Name, Nothing to Explain, Lonely on the Stone. It started with such a melancholy tone and it went on again to give me such a wonderful message. It would be great if you could share it with us and then we have a chat about it.
Sure, Antonji. Thank you so much. I'm glad you liked it. Um, a
Oh,
life.
I liked all of them. I loved all of them. It was difficult for me to move from one to the other because each poem, with its simplicity, kind of hugged you like a friend and you stayed with that thought. You didn't want to, pull yourself away from that thought and move on to the next. The warmth of that thought held you. So, yes, of course,
So
it was beautiful.
I remember reading Oscar Wilde, who said, "The purpose of all art is to show the art and hide the artist."
Yes,
I sort of maybe did not quote it correctly, but I believe I'm closer to the actual quote, paraphrased in my own way. So, purpose of all art is to reveal the art and hide the artist. It's not about the reader or the beholder to be in awe of the artist, but they should be in awe of the art. And when it comes to words, whether it's stories or poems, or the intent is not to create an impression, but to create an expression, to leave a strong expression behind. So that's the thought process. But coming back to the poem, Anupamji, it goes
G.
like this. Well, the precursor to the poem, a lifetime is spent making a name. A lifetime is spent guarding the reputation. A lifetime is spent before we realize that we have lost all that we made and guarded with our lives. And the poem goes like this: nothing to explain, lonely on the stone. The name will remain when you are gone. a lifetime spent to keep it high, now barely a lament, rarely a sigh. That which was built over toil and tears, and many a guilt, grounded now for all the years, nurturing illusions, pampering delusions, many were the issues, and many the unpaid dues. Every stone that you see in any graveyard talks about a lot of these, many issues that the person faced, and possibly many unpaid dues that were left behind. The name remains on that ground on a stone, and that was the name that was always attempted to be kept flying high. The end of it
Yes,
is always down there on on a stone, perhaps if there is one such.
yes. And there are many graves which don't even have a headstone, as it is called. The name is also not there.
Yeah.
It had such a strong, beautiful, profound thought, almost to the extent of, I would almost go to the extent of calling it a very spiritually alive poem. It gives you the entire perspective of life on a platter so beautifully. Thank you so much, Bipinji. Before I continue, I would like to apologize. I'm really sorry today because of certain problems with my laptop. We started the program a little late, and hence now we are almost running out of time. But before we proceed, I would really like to know, because you are also a Toastmaster, and I'm sure you must be mentoring students in the Gavels clubs and all those. What is your message to the youth of today? How do you see them? With pride, with worry, with concern? And you think our future is in safe hands?
Oh, absolutely. I look at them with a lot of pride, indeed, because beneath the superficiality that you see in the kids of these days, the low attention span, the pursuit of everything that seems frivolous, but there are very sensitive souls, very responsible children, it's indeed my good fortune that I'm associated with quite a few Gavel clubs as a mentor to those. And the kind of expressions that they come up with, the kind of thoughts that they come up with, uh, are really commendable. So I'm very sure that the future is in safe hands.
And you think the literature of the coming era would hold up to the trials of the times and would still have the essence of the culture and of the history of our lands?
Yeah, that is where it makes it challenging for us as adults, as grown ups, to make literature meaningful, relevant, precise, and tempting for them. So if it is complicated, if it's difficult, they switch off. It's the generation of Instagram, instant poetry, instant gratification. So that is where precision comes into play. That's when ease has to come into play. That is when we have to make it easy for them to appreciate the nuances of literature in the most easy manner. And that is where we play a big role in how we guide them into getting them to love literature, in how we get them to appreciate stories and poems, and get them to think at a little more deeper level than what they otherwise would. So that's where we play a big role.
But what do I do? How do I make Shakespeare simpler for them? How do I get them to appreciate an Oscar Wilde, or even a Rumi or an Umar Khayyam, or even a Kabir for that matter?
Simplify. Can you word it differently? Can we word it differently? Can we bring out the essence in simpler words. That's an ongoing attempt. We can possibly try and do that, and as we do that, they will also realize that there is the evolution happening in their own sensibilities, and eventually they may gravitate towards the original, which is
Yes.
which is the ultimate, the original Rumi or the original Oscar Wilde, and not the abridged versions and the newer age
Yes.
adaptations. We need to get them to go there eventually by giving them bite-sized snippets, and in a manner that they don't feel overwhelmed.
Yes.
That's
Um,
the intent.
I say that because at one point of time, I remember my girls, it was a ritual for us, Bipinji. Every year when we went back to India for our annual summer holidays, we would go to the bookstore and all of us would spread out and buy books which were age specific or whatever. And this one time, I remember my daughter finding an abridged version of Little Women. And somewhere I felt so sad because I thought, how can you not read the original, which we had read while we were growing up? Oops, I'm sorry. This keeps moving. And and I told her, no, you should read the original. And then she said, Mama, you're talking about this. Look, even Enid Blyton now they give you abridged versions. And even, our childhood joys like Tom Sawyer were given in abridged versions. And basically what they do is they make the entire conversation so concise
Yeah,
that you're not, the joy that we derived is not there anymore for the children. It's a dry read. He went and he said and they said, and that's how the whole story ends. So hence I asked you, because as a parent, you always want your children to have that richness of literature. It makes them a better human being.
absolutely, absolutely. And by no stretch of imagination am I saying that the literature, the classics which are there, that are not to be appreciated or anything of that sort. I mean, it's certainly something that the children need to move towards. But if you start with that, then probably, like it happens with many, that they get intimidated and
Yes,
back off. So how do you get it to them in a manner that they start appreciating, that they start getting the depth of it uh, without too much of assistance, is what our attempts should be.
absolutely. Trying, not yet succeeding, but trying. Thank you so much for that very valuable insight, Bipinji. And with that, let's come to your next poem, which was That Day. I have never told you in the past, and my life has gone by real fast. Probably what one day we would be telling our children and grandchildren. Could you share that with us, please?
Yeah, let me just pull out that one. This one. Okay. This is sort of a poem that was written with the intent of a message for my children. And yeah, so it goes like this. I have never told you in the past, my life has gone by real fast. As I look back, old and grey, I'm proud, yet will humbly say, as I look back,
Sorry,
no
I'm
problem.
extremely sorry.
No issues. I understand you're at home.
Please,
Shall I? Okay.
please.
I have never told you in the past, my life has gone by real fast. As I look back, old and grey, I'm proud, yet will humbly say, I have lived an awesome life amidst all the struggles and strife. I was loved by many on the way. I also loved so many all the way. I may not have been the best ever, but I tried in good measure. I have met many a betrayer, yet I kept my loyalty forever. My poems may not be the best you see. You may find in them a little bit of me. They may not be the best of rhymes, but it will show you bygone times. Life is just a passing phase, but in failure, I still kept my faith. I tell you this before dying. You may pass or fail, but you never stop trying.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And this is actually what led me to the question I asked you about what do we leave for our youth? What do we leave for our next generation? And how beautifully you have put it. In the real sense of the word, this is the treasure that you would like to hand over to them, and this is actually the treasure that they would treasure in their hearts and that they would get inspired by in their difficult times. This is such a beautiful poem, Bipinji, because it not just talks about your life's journey, it also gives them an indicator of how their journey might be and how they could learn from your footsteps and try walking in them. It was a really beautiful poem, Bipinji. And I wish you all the very best. And I'm very confident that your book would remain a bestseller for many, many weeks, because it is filled with such beautiful, simple yet golden nuggets of poems, of inspirations, and of candid thoughts that one cannot put it down after reading one poem. This is what I would ideally carry with me to a sun-kissed beach for my holiday and probably read there while nobody disturbs me, so that like the waves of water, the waves of your thought just settle in and settle in. It is such a beautiful book. I would request you before we end to read a poem that you would want to read to my viewers as a send-off message to them, or something you would want them to think of you by, like a signature poem, maybe.
Okay. I'll go with the poem titled "The Unseen Wings" itself, which is what the book is also about.
Please.
So this is the ultimate attempt, the underlying thought behind the book itself, to inspire, to uplift, to be able to give that strength to anybody who is reading the book, because we are all going through some or the other challenges and strife, and
Absolutely.
that is where the thought behind these words have come in. And the poem itself is titled "Unseen Wings." Goes like this: I am the dust that would not settle. I am made of a different metal. You send storms my way, I will fly above them and say, you have not seen my wings, my friend, my unseen wings. You may hush me up, you may crush me down, break me with your words, burn me with your eyes, kill me with your thoughts, and yet I will fly above this and tell you again, you have not seen my wings, my
Beautiful.
unseen wings.
Beautiful.
I'll carry the bruises and the scar and keep fighting every war. I will not drop the heavy cross. Surely in style I will leap across. You may stop me somehow, I will keep moving anyhow. You may lock up my liberal soul, but my dauntless spirit you don't control. For you have not seen my wings, my unseen wings. You may leave me helpless, you may leave me hopeless. Yet I will look in the eyes of distorted truths and twisted lies. And to every sinking hope and creeping fear, I will again tell with a smile, my dear, you've not seen my wings, my unseen wings. I am in the care of a God so divine, so fine. I'll come again. I'm in the care of a God so fine. I am part of a plan so divine. Nothing can ever break me down, for I don't chase the earthly crown. Nothing can ever break me down, for I don't chase the earthly crown. My fear to fall is so wrong, when my hope keeps me strong. My strength comes from grace and love, and blessings from up above. I'm blessed with unseen wings, my unseen wings.
Beautiful, beautiful, wonderfully worded, and such a beautiful and delicate yet powerful thought of the unseen wings. And no doubt, Bipinji, you have those unseen wings that have made you fly over all the difficulties and challenges. And you sit here today, the proud author of such a wonderful, marvelous book. To be very honest with you, I think today I spoke more than I normally do in the interviews, but purely because each and every one of your poems took me on a journey of my own, of understanding my own self through your words, of unraveling the thoughts and the emotions. And today, when you spoke of the unseen wings, I I was taken to each and every one of those women who take up challenges in life. And I would just like to share with you and my audiences, because this thought came to me so strongly. As you are aware, I am related to the Chow Foundation in India, which works with acid attack survivors. And these ladies truly have their unseen wings, but wings made of metal. For somebody has disfigured their face, has left them sometimes partially, sometimes almost blind. And yet they are there fighting for themselves and trying to live life to the fullest. So while you were talking about your wings, I could see them flutter their wings. And I think that is the power of your words, Bipinji. Thank you so much once again. Your words inspired us, and your poems have really made us dig deep down into the darkest corners of our hearts for emotions unfelt and for words unheard. Thank you so much, Bipinji. Any last thoughts before we end the program?
Thank you, Anupamji. In fact, I wouldn't call it last thoughts. These have been thoughts which have been always there. Every time I see you on screen, we haven't met in person, but I've had the unique privilege of being on the same platform as that of you during the PLG sessions.
Yes.
You have been fabulous. One of those prolific writers who is somebody after my own heart in terms of the pursuit of profound thoughts, spoken, written beautifully. And I
Thank you
thoroughly
so much.
enjoyed the conversation that we had today. Perhaps if anybody is watching this interview, I'm sure they'll see the poetry in the way you are asking questions.
Thank you so much, Bipinji.
Poetry in the intervening transitions when from one question to the other, there has been amazing play of words, which I'm sure the discerning audience will be able to see. And this comes from somebody who's so deep in thinking. And I'm so impressed with the comfort and ease with which, although you said Hindi is where you play on, but English, I think now I have to rate you between Hindi and English, which is better, where you're better. So thank you so much for being such an amazing host and giving me the opportunity to be part of such a wonderful show.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Bipinji, and thank you to all our audiences. And I would again, before I bid you goodbye, request you to stay tuned to the wonderful platform of Poetry and Literary Group, where we bring you fabulous programs of poetry and storytelling every Saturday and interviews every Sunday, 7:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Thank you very much. Good night and take very good care of yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you.